We're glad to be back in Montreal. I mean, this is a great city, and I think people really like coming to Montreal. The conference is a little different this year. We've rebranded it the Mortgage Forum 2010. We have this international panel. We got the head of the Australian associations here. We got the head of the U.S. Mortgage Bankers Association here. We have some people from Mexico here. That's something a little different this year that we're doing in Montreal. We've had, we've heard from our lenders and we've heard from the brokers. We wanted to make it a little bit international so that people in our industry know what's going on outside our borders.
Well, my comparison really is with Australia, and we see it quite similar to Australia. Similar sized country, slightly bigger population, a number of provinces, we have a number of states. Well, I think in terms of the mortgage market, we look at the Canadian market as being similar to ours. We know the Canadian market's quite different to the US market, as is ours. The reason Australia pulled through it was that we had quite robust banking laws, lending laws. We had the government with a very substantial surplus, and the government also acted very quickly to splash funds into the economy. I think the strength is the economy at the moment. The weakness is lack of competition. Very simply, we have our mortgage market is dominated by 4 major banks. They've got about 90% of the market, and that's not good for the economy, and it's not good for consumers. And the broking channel in Australia has got about 40% of the retail market, about 40% market share. It dropped a little during the GFC, but it's now back to 40 again, maybe a bit above. There's been a fair amount of consolidation over the last couple of years. There's about 4 or 5, 6 really large broking groups who basically dominate the industry. Before the GFC, Australia had a very strong securitisation market, which fell apart, almost disappeared, and we noticed that the Canadian market continued because of the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation. We're trying to get I suppose the non-bank lenders back into the market to provide more competition in the Australian market, and the Canadian system seems to be one way of doing that. I guess the similarities to Australia make the CAAMP conference more relevant to us because I can see much more traction and involvement in the things that we do as well. We have what we call an AMC, accredited mortgage consultant, which is similar to the AMP in Canada. I go to a lot of conferences, and the main reason is to learn things. I always find, doesn't matter where you go, you always pick up something new, even if it's sometimes just a confirmation that what you're doing is correct, but you also find things that you could be doing that you're not doing.
The mortgage brokers industry is very incipient in Mexico. It's still in a very early stage of development, and it's something we're looking at very closely. It hasn't been regulated yet, so we hopefully are trying to get some of the best practices to help develop this important market. We have seen that mortgages are mortgages everywhere, and bankers are bankers everywhere, and borrowers are borrowers everywhere. So we have many things in common. One of the similitudes is that people don't tend to keep the mortgage for a life. Normally, mortgages are paid off within 7-8 years, and Mexico has one of the highest ownership rates in the world because people get a home and it's a main asset of the family, and they tend to keep it for a longer time. In Mexico, prudent lending has been a constant. We didn't have a price bubble as it happened in other markets, so the prices of the homes are quite stable. When we see a delinquent file and we say we would have lent this guy again tomorrow because he had a good credit bureau, a good down payment, he bought a nice house, he had a steady job, but he was impacted by the crisis and he lost his job. So what we're doing is we're trying to help these people to restructure the loan, to once they get back in job and have a steady income source again. It has proven to be very effective. I think that if you look at what caused the crisis in other countries, in a good percentage, it's related to the relaxation of credit policies and thinking that loans would be paid by themselves. So I think that what's different, in that sense we have something in common with Canada and Mexico. in that sense, the mortgage brokers are linked to the assets that they provide to us, and they know that if the portfolio goes down and if someone loses in this business, we all lose. Well, I think that it has been proven that prudent lending it's not only the best way to do sustained mortgage lending, but also it's very profitable. So I think that we should all learn from what has been done in Canada and replicate because there's a lot of success stories here.
Well, interesting. The American mortgage industry is one that has really relied substantially on securitization of actually putting mortgages in securities for a number of years. We're trying to sell the risk. And there's always been a debate in our country as to what role the government should play in the mortgage business. And now, after the meltdown, we're going through that same debate again. And in Canada, where the government is a very important part, you have been able to avoid many of the issues, most of the issues we've faced in the US. And I think that's because there's a stability here that the government provides and the government insurance programs provide for borrowers and for lenders. Outlook for the US is, as I've said, we're going to go through dramatic changes to mortgage lending. We still have some difficult times ahead. Our economy is not good. It's growing very slowly. Unemployment is high. And as long as unemployment is high, we're going to continue to see mortgage delinquencies at a high level. So we need to find jobs, we need to put people back to work, and we need to move the inventory of houses that have been foreclosed out. But you know, I've been in this business 52 years, and we will be fine. It's going to take time for this issue to work, I think probably 18, 24 months, but we're on the road to rebuilding an industry in the US that's going to be a much better mortgage industry. We're going to have transparency, we're going to have accountability, and we're going to have a much better alignment of the interest with borrowers and the interest of lenders. What we're finding in the US is we always sort of pretty proud and think we've got it right. And what I found in my time here in CAAMP and what I found in the EU is we don't always have it right. And I'm taking away from conversations with members of CAAMP and the leaders of CAAMP many good ideas that as we in the US now are reshaping our industry, I can take those ideas and use them as some of the principles to build on. We in the US are going to have a totally reshaped and different mortgage lending environment in the coming years than we've had in the past. So we need to learn from some of our Canadian friends.
So I think, you know, they're learning more from us. You know, we have a history in Canada of mortgage insurance, which is a good thing. You know, when you look at other countries like Australia and the US, there are some things that we can learn, and particularly in terms of the broker channel and how to grow the broker channel and to instill consumer confidence and to see it as the first choice for mortgages. But we're doing a lot of things right in Canada too, which is why a lot of people are coming here. We try to educate Canadians too about, you know, mortgages and what to do and what not to do. So, you know, those things have all come a long ways, I think, in the last number of years. We can always do more, and you know, that's why we have things like this in terms of our conference to learn more and some things that we should be focusing on in the future years. So it's a good time to be back in Montreal. I think the industry's you know, facing some challenges, but there's a good feel here. It's a very positive, and I think people, when they leave here, will have learned a lot.